Hey guys, welcome back to another 3D printing video. Today we have a printer from Tronxy or Tronxy, which is called the Crux 1. And this is a smaller printer that could probably suit a lot of you out there. So I am pretty excited to see what it has to offer. So in this video, we're gonna unbox it, set it up, and do some prints. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get started. Alright, so the Crux 1 comes in this package. It's not very large. We got a picture here of what it looks like. And on the side here, we can see the measurements of the box in millimeters. And on the little sticker here, it says PEI. So this should be the version that has the build plate upgrade. And by the way, the shipping label says 6 kilograms, which is about 12 pounds or so. All right, so I got the box cut open. Let's go ahead and open it up. And it looks like they used the white soft foam for the packing. And this is what we see on top. So we got the manual. So here it shows us all the parts of the printer, the parameters, the parts list of all the included items, and the installation instructions that go quite in good detail of how to get this thing assembled and start printing. Also, we get a little paper that says magnetic steel plate, and on the back of that there's some installation instructions of how to install it onto the printer. And we also get this little piece of paper that's kind of like a measuring ruler, and also some instructions here on the back of how to level the bed, and you can use this to set the gap. All right, so yeah, everything is laid out really nice. So here we have the PEI sheet, and the reason you want to upgrade to this is that not only is it more convenient to use over the glass bed, but it's a lot more reliable and durable. And because you can remove it so easily, it's magnetic, it makes it really a much better and faster and easier experience, as the glass bed takes a while to cool off. So I would definitely highly recommend going to the PEI steel sheet. So here we have the power cord. It's about 4 feet long, a bag of tools and whatnot else. We'll go through this in a second. A coil of PLA filament in this blue color. I'm usually not a big fan of these, but for this printer it's fine. So we also get a USB adapter with the micro SD card in there, and our spool holder, which is fully metal. Quite simple, but seems to be great for doing its job of just holding the spool, and I like how it's all metal. And that's everything for the top here. Let's go ahead and pull this off. And underneath we can see the gantry, which is the upper portion, and the base. So we're gonna have to pull this all out together because it is tethered. Move this out of the way for a second. And yeah, that's everything for the box. Very well packed and lots of foam protecting the printer. All right, so you guys can see that we don't have much here. I can almost pretty much set this thing right on top. Yeah, quite a simple construction, and as you guys can see, pretty much comes pre-built with everything. We just need to mount the upper portion and then plug a few things in. But before we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and flip this thing over, and what I want to do is take off this cover on the bottom and see what we got underneath. So let's go ahead and open up this bag. So we got a USB cable to connect from the printer to the computer, a hex style screwdriver, some zip ties, a couple open-ended wrenches, some bolts for installing, a little metal handle that we'll install, and this is to carry the printer around, and a little set of Allen wrenches, which I'm gonna go ahead and pull the one out I need, and we'll take these bolts out from the bottom cover. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this off. So it's just a metal plate that's got 4 rubber feet on each corner. And yeah, it looks quite interesting under here. All right, so let's take a closer look here. Yeah, we can see the power supply. It is a 240 watts, 24 volt. Everything is nicely organized and crimped. So this is the input power. It goes the supply, then out of the supply into the main board. We got this really large cooling fan for the board, and it is a Tronxy made board. We do have an ARM processor, and yeah, everything looks very nicely organized and routed here. And this is the Y motor that moves the bed back and forth. All right, so I'm gonna put this cover back on, and we'll start the assembly. All right, so on the first step, we're installing the gantry to the base. We're gonna need this packet of bolts. And so what we're gonna do is make sure that our wiring here is not twisted up too bad, or is where it wants to be. Okay, there we go, that's better. So yeah, just make sure your wires are not being all twisted. And we're literally gonna set it down right here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points that we'll have to secure the gantry down to the base. And actually, I think this wrench that they included is the same one as the Allen wrench that we need. And sure enough, it is. All right, well, that makes life a lot easier. Definitely appreciate that. And I really like how they thought about the installation process and included this useful driver. So yeah, there's 3 here. And I'm just gonna start them for now because we need to move it around maybe here and there. And you guys can see there's 2 on the back. And then 1, it's kind of harder to see, but it's underneath the bed right over here. So now that we got all of them started, we can go ahead and tighten them up. So we're gonna snug this up really good. And we can actually use our little wrench for leverage if we wanna get them, nice and tight. All right, so yeah, now our gantry is connected to the base. So for the next part, they want us to install the metal handle on top, and that's this guy here, and it goes right here. Now we do need to lower the x-axis or the Z. And if you guys can see, we got a lead screw here, so if we just grab it by the coupler, we can turn it to go up and down. Make some room here so we can get to the handle. So same bolts out of the pack, and we'll need 2 of them. Start one and the other. And there we go. And now we have a handle that we can grab the printer by and move it around. So yeah, so far, pretty simple. So for the next part, they want us to connect the Z, which is right here. And the wires just stick it up. And it does have a little Z on it. And that's our motor for the Z axis. So yeah, just need to plug that in. The next step will be installing the spool holder, which is also quite simple. It goes here on the side of the printer and it's pretty much assembled. So we just got to line it up with these 2 threads. So it does kind of lean back. Go ahead and snug it up. Yeah, you can see it kind of goes towards the back and leans a bit, but yeah, that's the way it works. And we'll go through here in a second, guys, and look at how everything feeds and operates. So for the next part, we got to install the build plate, but the one they're showing here is the glass, and we have the PEI sheet, and that's pretty much it for the assembly. So let's go ahead and install our build plate. So separating them apart, we can see that this is the magnetic part, and it's like a big sticker that we got to peel here, and then we're gonna put it on the aluminum heated bed. Now there is a little protector here, and you could choose to take this off or leave it. Doesn't really matter. Mine looks like it's pretty good and flat and everything's nice. Now if you have some kind of wrinkles or it's peeling, you might as well take it off, but if it's perfect, you can leave it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and stick this to that. Now normally I'm not very good with this kind of stuff, so if you're not either, be very careful because you get only one try. So I'm just gonna peel it on one corner and then lay it down, and I'm making sure that it's square everywhere. But once I'm pretty confident I got it reasonably straight, I'm just gonna start peeling the whole thing underneath, kind of laying it flat where it needs to go. But be very careful here and just take your time. So since this is so thick, it's not that hard, obviously, but you just want to line it up as close as possible and kind of evenly let it set in from one end to the other. All right, well, I think we did a pretty good job. And now our PEI sheet should just magnetize right on top of it. It kind of jumps around here and there, but it does line up, and yeah, very cool to have this PEI option for this printer. I definitely like that. So I'm not sure if I skipped a step or what, but we haven't did anything here. So it looks like that if you do want to use the filament detector, it's kind of built in here on the side. You're gonna have to go through with your filament kind of feeding like this, and then through the tube. Now this is a direct drive extruder. The part that's unfortunate, because it's direct drive, you kind of benefit of not having any tubes, but because this printer is so small, it's not really a great option to mount on top. You can probably mount a spool holder up here somewhere if you wanted to instead of this handle, kind of like a DIY upgrade, and then you can feed straight down into that. But if you want to use it the way they intended it, or at least what it feels like what's intended here, is that we need to remove this PTF tubing here, piece that guides, and then we're going to insert this one instead, just like that. And now our filament will feed through the detector and then into the hot end or the extruder. So again, looks like right off the bat or the factory setup here, we are already given options to upgrade this thing, which is kind of cool. But we're going to start it off here with the most simplest way, is just the way it is right now. And I'm pretty excited to show you guys all the details because I see quite a few unique and interesting things about this little printer. All right, so yeah, let's take a closer look at this thing. And so far I'm pretty impressed with what I see, especially for being a budget printer. So we'll start here on top. We got a little handle that we installed, Everything is metal here. You can see our lead screw. It does have a bearing on top. So let's go to the back. You guys can see going down to our brass bushing, then eventually down to our Z-axis motor with the coupler, and it's black. So here we have our X-axis connection that goes out like an arm, and this is all metal. Our X-axis motor. This is the filament detector. So our filament will come out of the spool and then into the detector through this tube, and then out into the hot end. So looking at the back of the direct drive extruder, we can see the motor, and it's all very well integrated, at least very cleanly. And you guys probably noticed here, maybe, we are rolling on metal rails. Instead of having those plastic rollers that are V-channeled, this is more like a linear rail style roller type. So yeah, very nice, and I definitely prefer this because it's very smooth. If it's done right, it's definitely better than those plastic rollers. So not too much to see here. Underneath, we do see the nozzle though, with the silicone heat sock on the heater block. So going down to the very bottom, not much here, just some venting. And then we got our main wire coming out to the bed, and another one here going to the X-axis. The spool holder mounts here. You guys can see where we mounted all our bolts to hold the upper portion. Under the bed, we can see where our Y-axis motor is, and it kind of rolls on these idler pulleys, and we have the belt that connects to the bed. Again, the same kind of channel for the Y-axis. We got the Y-axis end stop switch. Going back to the front, here we can see a cover with our QR code, and here's our X-axis end stop switch, and we can see how that works right there. Underneath that, we got the Z-axis end stop switch, which goes down and hits this adjustment here, and you can turn this to go lower or higher to offset it. So let's go ahead and preset it and go all the way down. And when it hits that switch, it's going to click. There we go, and we can see about how high we are off the build plate. So that looks like about right, and our springs are somewhat tightened. So I think we do have to go down on this a little bit, but we'll do that when we level the bed. So yeah, you guys can see everything is built very well on this printer. So let's go back to the top here and look at the hot end assembly. So we got the heat break fan here, looks like, and it looks like it has a multi-purpose of cooling the extruder down, and also the heat break itself, which is right behind there. You can't really see it, but yeah, very interesting design. And we can see our extruder arm here, where we can release it so we can feed the filament through. We got a very large blower fan, and this is for the parts cooling. And there is a 3D printed duct that comes out right there underneath the nozzle. And going to this side of the nozzle and the heat block there. So, and we got our extruder motor. So at the end of the X-axis, we do have a tensioner for the belt, and it's this little twisty thing, which is really nice. Just be careful not to over tighten it. Mine's, I think, a little tight right now, but yeah, we can adjust that as we need it. And you want to be, you know, semi-tight, but not too tight. We do have quite a lot of mass moving here with the motor, so a little tighter is better. All right, now we go down to the build plate that we installed, which is this PEI sheet. Very nice, and it comes right off. It's just magnetic. So we do have a volume of 180 by 180 and 180 tall, which is a really good size for how small this printer is. Yeah, I do feel like most people would be more than happy with something this small of a form factor and the amount it could print. All right, so let's go underneath here. So the metal part, this aluminum, is the heated bed. And then underneath, maybe you guys can see here, we have a insulation pad, which is really cool. Even though this bed is small, it's nice to see that they put that there because it should heat up really quick. We do have adjustable knobs with springs on all four corners, and we'll be using those in a second to level the bed. And our bed frame there, riding on the steel rollers, you guys can see. So yeah, very nicely built. Again, I love these rails. We got a little end cap here, and I'm expecting to see great print quality because of this. So on the very top, we've got a screen that's kind of just pointing up vertically. So yeah, it's not very good to look at it, probably from an angle like this, which is fine when you're looking down at it on the desk. And there's a protector. Let's go ahead and peel that. Overall, looks nice and clean. So going down from there, we got the micro SD card port, a USB port, and this is where you're going to use that blue cable to connect to the computer, and a regular USB port for like a thumb drive, or even that adapter you could probably use here with the micro SD card. So yeah, they give you quite a few options here to connect. So on this side, we got the Crux 1 logo. Going to the left, not too much here, but to the right, we got our on and off switch here right on the front. And that's our power input port, and it is fused. And if we keep going this way, there's actually quite an important thing that we got to look at here, and this is our voltage selection. So you guys can see it says 220 and 110, and there's a switch in there. It's kind of like a black switch pointing down, and you got to click that to your voltage. Yeah, depending on where you live, you're going to toggle it to the left for 220 and right for 110. So mine is toggled correctly to the 110. And we do have 4 rubber squishy feet on each corner. So yeah, guys, overall, it looks like a pretty cool little printer, and I'm excited to power it on, preheat it, and level the bed. So let's go ahead and plug our power cord in, and that is here on the side, which is pretty convenient here up front. All right, so it looks like we got a boot up, and you guys probably won't see this well because of the reflections, but yeah, it made a little sound there and booted up. So we're gonna look at the menu, but I'm gonna go ahead and click on Tools, Preheat. So hitting right in the middle preheats the bed to 60 and 200 on the nozzle, and you can also individually do it. Let's go to Manual, and this is where we're gonna home the printer. All right, so that was the Y, the X, and the Z coming down. And look at that, everything's working perfectly. And it is preheating, it's already pretty hot, wow. Yeah, with this thing being so little and insulated, it's gonna heat up real quick. So the bed is at 55, and yeah, it's almost at 60. All right, hopefully you guys can see that, but yeah, it looks like the screen actually turns off or dims. And you can see, just touch it and powers back on. And hopefully you can see that there's a little bit of reflection, but so let's go back to the main menu. So this is what you see when you first start. We got System, Tools, and Print. So System is going to be about the printer. We got Status, Info, Language, choose the different languages, and then Reset to Default. So Tools is going to be where everything, like if we click on Manual, you can see here we can move individual axes and also home the printer, and this is what I pushed here right in the middle. And here on the bottom you can adjust how much it moves from 0.1 to 1 and 10 millimeters at a time. Let's go back. We got Preheat, push either plus or minus, but to preheat straight to 60 and 200 you just click right on it, right on the numbers like that. So you can see that if I click on it, it goes back to 0. So yeah, that's really nice. And then we have the level button. And here it asks us to choose the kind of level, which we only have manual available for this model. It's going to give us 5 points that we can go to, and it's actually out of homing right now. So we're going to click these circles here to go to that part of the bed, and we're about to go through this and level the bed. But if we go back, we got the last thing, which is print, and that's going to read our micro SD card or thumb drive to access the files. So yeah, pretty small screen, but quite intuitive and works pretty well. All right, so let's go ahead and level the bed. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to see how low our nozzle goes before it hits the build plate. And as you can see, maybe there's still a gap there between the nozzle. Also, we want to check our springs to see if they're, compressed. The way I like to do it is compress them pretty much all the way down until they're feeling some resistance. And now we can see we got a pretty large gap under there. So we can go ahead and compress this spring here to go lower on the Z-axis switch. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that up. So this might not tighten too much, depending on how much compression it has left. Let's see about how far it goes down now. Okay, so pretty good. Maybe I'll go a little more. And I think that should be all right because we do need to release these, a good amount. So basically what we're trying to do is tighten everything up. So, the tighter these springs are on the bed, the less chance they have of getting bumped off. And plus we are adding a little bit of volume to our Z height as we're, compressing down more. So on the screen, we're going to tap on Tools, Level, like you guys saw, Manual. And it's going to prompt up the 5 points. And we'll just click on the first point. And you do want to make sure that you are preheated on the bed and the nozzle. So let's go ahead and use this little paper they included to do the gap. And what we're doing is we're just going to adjust the bed until our nozzle kind of has a slight drag on the paper here. Oh, there we go. So now we're going to go to the next spot, which is this corner here. All right, just a little drag. And we're just going to go around and around the 4 corners until we get them perfect. So since this is a pretty small size bed, it shouldn't be too hard. And you definitely want to go, a few times. But here, just on my second try, I'm already pretty close. So yeah, you just want a slight drag between the nozzle and the bed. So yeah, we're really close now. This is our 3rd run, and I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go ahead and click the middle. That feels pretty much perfect. So if you do need to go down a little, let's say it's too tight for some reason, just turn each knob just a little bit, the same on 4 corners, and the whole thing will go down just slightly. Or if it's too loose, you want to go up a little, you can do that. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the extent of leveling the build plate. So if we go back, it's gonna auto home, and we're done with the bed leveling. Alright, so let's install some filament, and I'm just going to use a roll that I have. This is a full-size spool, but it is coming to an end. Let's see how well this works. So yeah, just going to sit on the spool holder, and then we're going to go through the filament detector here on the side, and then through the PTFE tubing, and then down into the extruder. So what we want to do is push on this lever to release it. And as I do that, I'm going to push it through, and it should eventually be coming out the other end, as you guys can see there. Yeah, it just goes through here, and then we pressed on this lever to release the tension on the gear so we can get through into the hot end, and then we purged it by pushing it through. Now I don't think, well actually no, we do have extruder controls here under the manual menu, so we can go ahead and see if we can just push that with the extruder, and sure enough we can. So if you do get, you know, close into here, you can just push the extruder down and it'll push it the rest of the way. So, alright, well I think we're pretty much ready to print. We leveled the bed, we ran our filament through. Let's grab our micro SD card, which by the way is an 8 gig, and we can plug it in here, or you can just plug the adapter into the USB port, and it should work either way. So I'm going to click on print, and you guys can't see this, and there is a file in there. You click on test models, and there is a few G codes included. Click on the calibration cube, and we'll start with that one. We're going to look at the printing menu here in a second, guys. So it is preheating 200 on the nozzle and 60 on the bed, and there it goes. So let's hope our offset is just right, and it looks pretty good to me. Okay, so it is purging there on the side. Yeah, it looks like it purged good and printing, but it seems like it's under extruding or something, which is weird because it purged perfectly. Or pretty much perfect, like a nice thick line. But when it started printing, it's kind of printing in this really thin way. I'm just gonna let it go and see what happens. It almost looks like the file is corrupt or was sliced wrong. But we are printing, and yeah, everything seems good. Our gap is perfect. The stepper motors are ultra quiet, and that goes for everything: extruder, Z-axis, and the X and Y. So yeah, they didn't skimp out on that. You can't hear them at all. Now there is quite a bit of fan sound, mostly coming from underneath the printer, that big fan I guess underneath there. But these guys are pretty silent. So maybe a good mod would be to slow that fan underneath down just a little bit. Okay, so it's printing and everything's fine. I guess it was just that first layer. Yeah, it's looking really good on the start there. Alright, so we're back at the top, and you guys can see the screen turns off even while printing. So that's pretty cool, and I hope you guys can see that. Zoom in just a little more, but yeah, on the top we got the file name, and then the coordinates, X, Y, and Z, the bed temperature and the target, the speed that's currently going at, so it's like 30 right now, the nozzle temperature and the target, the time passed and time left, 46 minutes, with a progress bar down here of how much has been completed, which is 6%. And then we got a pause, stop, and okay, yeah, so we can adjust the temperature of the bed, the nozzle, and also we do have a Z-axis offset. Look at that. So you can adjust it up and down on the fly, which is really nice to see. But yeah, pretty much all of the options here, and everything's laid out pretty well. And the screen does look a lot better when you look at it straight down. We're kind of looking at it at an angle. So alright, so we're kicking some butt, and the cube is printing very nicely. So yeah, the layers look like they're going down perfect. I don't know what was all that about in the beginning, but it looks like that's sorted out and everything is great. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this thing print out, and we'll see how they come out. Alright, so we printed out all of the models that were included with the printer, and one interesting thing is that whenever it's done printing, it actually shuts all the fans down, so it's completely quiet. I really like that part about it. So let's say if you're going to print overnight, once it's done, it's just going to be silent after that. And also it does, you know, turn off the screen too. So, and the prints all turned out pretty good. So since we didn't slice them, you know, I don't really know what the parameters are of them. But one thing that we can definitely see on all of them, just like we saw on the calibration cube, is there is some ringing here and there. So let's look at this crazy looking print. So yeah, layer adhesion, perfect. But there is ringing. So I did loosen up the belts a bit on this print after the cube, thinking that that might help. But as you can see, maybe it did help a little, but we still have some ringing here and there. The bottom looks pretty good. You get a textured finish. So the next one we printed is actually a cooling duct, just like the one here. It is included with the files, and for some reason it didn't finish printing. It wasn't jammed or anything, it just stopped printing, which was kind of weird. Meaning the extruder stopped extruding, the printer was still in the air. So, but yeah, again, you can see all the vibrations there. And I believe that's the Y, and the X would be here. So the X is still cleaner than the Y, which kind of puzzles me, as the bed is small, and maybe because it's small and lightweight, the motor vibrations come through. You know, that's the only thing I can really explain. And then we got this guy here. Again, excellent layer adhesion, as you can see, but we do have vibrations. So, you know, it's not bad, but it is there. But the Pei sheet works extremely well. It sticks so good, and then they just pop off when it cools off. So yeah, as far as how well the printer is putting down layers is great, but we do have a little bit of vibrations. So this cat print here is still stuck to the plate, and it'll probably come off really easy. Let's try. Yeah, it's not even, wow. Yeah, whenever it cools, it just pops right off, which is kind of crazy. You guys can see that's what the bottom looks like. But yeah, same story here. Vibrations, some ringing. We do have a little bit of some funny going up here and other places here and there. Actually, not sure what that is. It almost looks like a discoloring in the filament. But in any case, yeah, since, you know, we didn't slice none of this, I don't really know what to think. So I think for the next part, let's go to the computer and I'm going to slice my own calibration cube and a benchy, and we'll print them out in black so we can see a lot better of how the layers sit. All right, so we're at the computer. I got the thumb drive plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So we have one folder in there. If we open that up, we can see there's quite a bit of folders. So it looks like we got some kind of USB driver, contact us, Cura profile for this printer, slicing software. So this is for Windows, and I'm actually using a Mac, so the instruction manual in PDF form, which could be pretty nice to have. And by the way, these are all the parameters of the printer. All right, so we got the test model, and this is the 5 G codes that comes with the printer, and those are the prints we printed out. And also, it looks like here we got a couple videos, also one with leveling that could maybe be helpful if you're confused about that. So since I already have Cura, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I'm going to click over here and add printer. And when you first start, you'll get this window. We're going to click on non-network printers. And if we go to Tronxy, we can see here that this printer is not in the list. And I think they recommend you start with the D01, but I think another printer that comes to mind that's very similar to this one is the King Rune. So yeah, I'm just going to use this one and we're going to rename it Crux 1. I guess I'll put the Tronxy in there also. Yeah, we'll just add, and you can see all the parameters are exactly the same as this printer, which is 180 squared. So yeah, this would be the easiest way to get started here. We can see the printer with the volume, and it even looks extremely similar. So in any case, let's go ahead and throw a bench in here. And this is what it looks like. So if you click on it, you can see here on the left side, we got these hot buttons. So we got move, scale, rotate, and these are the 3 basics. And you got a few more controls under there. So on rotate, you'll just grab one of the lines here and rotate it. Scale, you can also grab it and scale it. Or you can type in the percentage you want. Move is the same way. You just actually click on the model and move it around the beds. Or you can just precisely move it or type it in here in millimeters. So if we go to the top right, clicking on the standard quality, you can see here, this is all of our parameters to the print. So if you click on these 3 lines here, you guys can see we have a few choices and you want advanced. And let's go ahead and go through this real quick. So on quality, we're going to keep everything the way it is, and you can adjust your layer height here. Top and bottom, we're going to change the top layers to 5. Infill density at 15 is pretty good for most things. Printing temperature at 200 should be okay. Printing speed, we'll turn that down to 50 millimeters a second. And I like my initial layer to be a little slower than that. So we'll go 15 and 25 skirt brim. Retractions on. The distance looks good since this is direct drive, but can I bump it up just a bit to 1.2 millimeters? Everything else looks good. Fan is fine. Build adhesion skirt. 4 seems a little much, so I'll go to 3 here. And you have a choice between brim, raft, and none. The skirt's just going to print a few lines around the print and then start printing. Brim is going to put lines around the print, but touch it to the edge. And then raft is going to underneath the print and then print on top of that. So yeah, I don't like using raft, and especially for this printer with this build plate, skirt should be perfect. Now if you're having problems sticking, brim might be a good idea to kind of reinforce everything. And then down here we have special modes, which we can use Spiralize Mode right here. And if you click it, it's just going to print a couple layers on the bottom and then 1 layer all the way around. And we'll try this mode out also on this printer. So the only other thing I like to change, and if you click here and click on expert, there's going to be a lot more stuff stuff that comes out, and it's going to get pretty confusing. But in retractions, where you scroll down here a bit, it says here retract before outer wall. I like to disable that, as it seems to help a bit with under extrusion, especially where there's a lot of retractions required. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much everything. We'll go back to advanced here so we're not confused, and everything looks good. We're going to click the slice button, and you guys can see it's going to take only 1 hour and 41 minutes to print out this Benchy. So we can save it straight to the removable since our SD card is plugged in. And now if we open up the card, we can see it's right here. But I'm going to go ahead and double click here, or right click, and clear the build plate. And we'll also throw in a calibration cube. Let me push it back just a little bit. Slice it the same way, 33 minutes, save to removable. And you guys can see we can eject it right here also straight from the slicer. Alright, well hopefully this little quick overview was helpful. Let's go print out those two models and we'll see what they look like. Alright, so we printed out the calibration cube and the Benchy, and yeah, I think we got much better result from our own slicing. So let's look at the cube first. So this is the X, and you can see we still have vibrations and slight ghosting. A couple different lightings here for you guys. And then the Y, less vibrations, which is good, but still ghosting there, as you can see, but not bad for sure. The X wall and the Y wall. The top looks excellent, and the bottom. So yeah, I mean overall, even though there's some vibrations, it looks much better and cleaner than our first print set. Now the Benchy here will show us a lot more, and I haven't pulled it off yet. Okay, yeah, so this one's stuck pretty good. Let's see if I can. Okay, yeah, it came off really easy. And yeah, this thing is really impressive. If you are going to get this printer or even any other printer, I'd highly recommend this PEI steel sheet. It seems to do wonders. Here we have the Benchy, and yeah, right off the bat, guys, it looks amazing. So let's start here from the bottom. You guys can see the finish that it leaves, the bed does. On the back there, we can see vibrations, but look how clean the 3D Benchy words are. Very nice. On the sides here, the walls looking really good and even. So yeah, we're all great here. We had something kind of funny going on there. Not too bad. We got a little bit of ghosting. Let's go to this side. Usually we get a lot of ghosting here, which there's a little bit, not bad. And that's the Z seam there. So the walls look nice and straight. Overhangs, very clean, even on the front. Practically no stringing at all anywhere, which is awesome. There's a little bit in the window there, but yeah, look at that, guys. Very clean. And yeah, you can definitely see the vibrations there. The box looks good, and the top looks amazing. So yeah, excellent print, guys. And this is what I was expecting from these metal roller rails. Again, the only thing to really complain about, I guess, if it's even complain, is the vibrations. Now, I'm going to try to play around with this belt a little more, but I don't think I can do anything else. I've tried loosening it, and then I've tightened it back up again, and it's got a nice tension on it, and it feels smooth. I can't feel any kind of jittering, so yeah, it must be coming straight from the motors. Now it could be also the slicer with the slicing. Normally I don't have any issues with Cura on most printers, so in any case, so far the printer is printing great. So I'm going to go ahead and print out some more models, and because we have a direct drive extruder, I think we can go ahead and try some TPU also. And I also want to print something in Spiralize mode and see how that works out. Alright, so we printed out a few more models, and I have to say overall this thing is really fun to use. So let's start with this plain chip is what it's called, and I printed this in TPU, but also this is in Spiralize mode, which is just a couple layers on the bottom and then one layer all the way around, so it's hollow. And you guys can see this is TPU as it folds up pretty nice. But yeah, pretty good overall. It did print kind of foamy. Not sure why. Maybe my filament's just getting bad. But I don't think so, because if we look on the very bottom, it's smooth. And then as it goes up, it's foamy. So I'm thinking that this printer suffers from what a lot of the newer printers that have issues just like this is they don't have enough memory or bandwidth to calculate one layer all the way up. So this is why this is experimental mode in Spiralized. Now what's interesting is that we have another print that's also in Spiralized, but it doesn't seem to have this issue that this one did. So, and we'll look at that in a second. Let's look at this Octopus first. This print here is the largest or the maximum X and Y that we could squeeze out of it. So it's literally 180 on the X and the Y of these feet. And you can see it's a pretty large model for such a small printer. There's still a support here. Go ahead and pop that off. But yeah, again, this PEI sheet, guys, works excellent. Every foot stuck, nothing popped off, and it completed the print. And look how clean it is. And it's literally pretty much perfect. Now we still have this kind of textured look all over the print, and you know, the larger the print is, the less kind of noticeable those vibrations are. And since this is not, you know, flat surfaces anywhere, it's all rounded, it kind of camouflages them very well. Yeah, overall great print, very accurate and pretty impressive for this little printer. Now another print we printed, which is kind of cool, and this is like an engine, and normally I can't get these things to work ever, but I did scale this one up to 150%, which is quite a bit larger than it's supposed to. And this is a functional print, but we had a few issues here on the bottom, things that popped off. I was still able to clean it up and also make it work. So yeah, you guys can see it works really well. So I think there's a little bit too much play and everything, so it kind of gets stuck here and there, but I think if I scaled it only to about 120, 30%, it would have been, you know, a lot more smoother. But yeah, really cool print overall. And this is by someone called Sunshine. If you just search for him and include engine, and you will find this print here. If you've never printed this thing, it's really hard to print, at least at its original size. Yeah, I went ahead and oversized it and it came out really nice. But yeah, for the last print here, we got the Spaceship, and this is actually the full height that this printer can print, which is 180 millimeters, and it had no issue with that. Let's see how easy it'll pop off. Oh yeah, it just pops right out. You guys see that. But this print is also printed in Spiralize mode. And so it's just a few layers on the bottom and then one layer all the way around. So this one didn't have any issues with under extruding or whatnot else. And if we look at the bottom, very nice. The bed does leave this textured finish. And you guys can see those vibrations. They're pretty pronounced. And it's just kind of textured looking all the way up. So not perfect, obviously. Not terrible either. And when things get smaller, it does clean up quite a bit. And as we go up, you guys can see we actually finished to the very top, including this little ball. We did start melting here, but look how smooth this part is right here. So yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with how this printer performs. I wish we did have a little less vibrations, and maybe that could be adjusted. It is possible maybe our steel rollers are too tight on the rails, or it could be something else I overlooked. But as far as the printer itself, it's very easy to assemble and actually quite easy to disassemble if you know, need something that you can travel with, as you just take out the 5 main bolts, unplug a couple things, take the spool holder off, and you can collapse this whole thing. So yeah, it makes it a pretty great traveling printer. I do like how it's put together and built. Everything is high quality metal on all the parts that are important. The direct drive extruder assembly works well, and there's no issues at all with it. Great parts cooling. We do have a filament detector, but you do have to kind of use this tube for that. And for how this printer is set up, it makes sense. I love the PEI metal sheet. As you guys see, it's excellent and definitely worth getting over the glass bed. The touchscreen is good. It gets the job done. I like how we have all these port options. And yeah, just a great little printer overall for anyone to get started, especially for the younger makers out there that want to get into printing. This would be a great printer to get you started and into 3D printing. Also, if you don't have much space and you want something small, this thing is very compact. Since the power supply is built into it, there's nothing more than itself and a cord. So yeah, it would be able to fit in very small spaces. So yeah, overall, great printer for the right person. And if you are interested in it, I'm gonna have some links in the description. Check it out. And if you did enjoy this video, then hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, stay tuned. I got more 3D printing stuff coming up. Also, check out the 3D printing playlist. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.